Hey everyone, here we are today again with the continuing travel educational series that I've just simply called Cruise Vacation 101. We're up to part 5, and this may be the last installment depending on how much I cover in this video, or I may go out and extend it to a summary video, which I probably will, and include part 6. But we're nearing the end of the series, and today I'm going to address the cost, and I'm sure a lot of you are ready to get to that part of the series. We've discussed the proper way to go about planning a cruise vacation, and just finding out within yourself what you want in a vacation, how long you want to be on vacation, where you want to go, and all of those decisions play into selecting then the right cruise line, and along with the destination, and then the right stateroom. We talked about that in part 4. We talked about stateroom selection, and I showed you how there's a lot of differing opinions. So today we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of, frankly, there's not a lot of opinions about what I'm going to talk about today. It's just the facts that go with cruising. That's the cost. So let's get right to it. First of all, let's talk about what's included in the cruise fare. Now again, I'm going to be addressing cruise fare as it applies to the mainstream cruise lines. Again, that's Carnival, Holland America, Royal Caribbean, NCL, Princess, etc. The luxury cruise lines that I've separated out maybe have a little bit different as far as what's included, and their price reflects it. So let's stick with the mainstream, and again go under the assumption you're taking a 7-day Caribbean cruise on, say, Royal Caribbean or Princess or one of the main ones. So here's what's included in your cruise fare. Your stateroom, that's first of all what you pay for. The biggest cost that you're paying for is a room on that ship, and again that varies from the type of stateroom that you select. Along with the stateroom accommodations that you get with the fare, you also get your meals in the main dining room, and also meals in the buffet restaurants, and meals at the little specialty grill areas that are usually around the pool, or the pools that are on the ship, and things like that. The meals at those types of venues are included in the cost of your cruise. Beverages, certain select beverages are included in the cost of your cruise, and that is usually juice, coffee and milk in the mornings, especially juice in the mornings, and along with your coffee and milk and water, naturally, unbottled water. And then in the evening, again, that's iced tea and unbottled water. And occasionally some cruise lines will try to charge you for juice for dinner or lunch, but I've seen some cruise lines just waive that and bring juice to your table. So you got your meals, some of your beverages, and then your accommodations, and then on top of that you have the different shows in the different venues, whether it's the main theater that you go to, the shows that they produce in those venues are included, or maybe it's one of the nightclubs and you're going to go listen to a jazz performer or a pianist or something like that. That's included, so your entertainment per se is included in the cost of your cruise. Now, that's going to be the nutshell of what I'm going to say is included in the cost of your cruise. So when you see an advertisement for, let's just say it's $799 per person, 7 nights in the Caribbean on X ship, on X cruise line, that $799 is going to include the things I just said. Now, in addition to $799, and a lot of times there's a little asterisk by that, will say it does not include any types of fees and taxes that the cruise line itself has, or supplemental fuel charges if they're including those as well. Those will be in addition to the $799 that I'm talking about, or whatever number that is that they advertise. Now, on top of that, here's what you need to consider for incidentals. I tell people at least plan on, say, 10%. So if you're going to spend, for two of you, a husband and wife or a family, if you're going to spend $2,000 on a cruise just in your cruise fare, I would at least plan on an extra $200 to $500, and that's over 10%. So I'd at least go 10% minimum, up to $500 for some of the incidentals I'm going to mention. So what's not included? Excursions. Every port you visit is going to have an opportunity to take an excursion, whether it's a swim with the dolphin excursion, or a scuba diving excursion, or a tour of the city excursion. Those are all extra costs, and those can range anywhere from a minimum of $35 a person up to $80, $90, $100 plus per person. Sometimes even getting to having a beach excursion is a cost, unless you want to go on your own and just pay for taxi fare to get to a public beach somewhere on that particular port. So that's an added cost to figure in if you want to take an excursion at any of the ports that you visit. If you drink alcohol, all of your alcohol on these main cruise lines are extra, and that's no matter what time of the day that you have an alcoholic drink, wine at dinner, whatever, extra cost. And again, that's going to range potentially from $4 up to whatever for whatever type of alcoholic drink that you're going to buy. Sodas are not included on the major cruise lines I just mentioned, with some exceptions. Again, Disney's an exception, the luxury cruise lines are an exception, but the ones I'm talking about, the mainstream cruise lines, sodas are not included. They offer what they call soda packages. If you drink a lot of sodas like I do, and sometimes those can be a benefit when you add up how much a soda is going to cost each time you have one, and then you figure you might have 3 or 4 sodas a day, then it might be worth for you to investigate their soda package, but that's an extra cost when you get on board. So we've talked about excursions, we talked about your beverages. What are some of the other incidentals? Gratuities. Nowadays you can actually pay for your gratuities ahead of time and have it included in your cruise fare up front that you've already paid off, or you can wait and pay your gratuities when you get on board at the end of the cruise. And your gratuities are going to cover your stateroom attendants, as well as your head waiter, assistant waiter, and even the maitre d' in some of the cruise lines. So, and they'll tell you who gets the tips when you go to include your tips on the last day. And maybe we'll talk about that in the summary as well, as far as how that all goes and the logistics on doing some of that. So now we've got your gratuities added in there. What's another potential cost above and beyond? Well, your transfers. Most of you, and I'm going to encourage you, so I encourage all my clients to fly in the day before of a cruise, but whether you fly in the day before or not, most of you are going to need to pay for a transfer to get from the airport to the pier. Again, depending on which port you're sailing out of, that can be a transfer that costs as little as $10 a person for a shared van, up to $30, $40, $50 per person for a more private vehicle, or depending on how long it is, it could be even that much for a shared van. So you got to plan in your transfer cost to the pier and round trip back to the airport. Hotel costs. This gets to the point I was just going to make about flying in the day before. If you do like I do, and your cruise is going to leave on a Sunday, therefore you need to arrive on a Saturday, and that's just to allow some cushion, and maybe I'll get into that again a little bit more in the next part, but let's talk about the cost portion. You need to factor in hotel costs for at least the day before, the night before your cruise. Now, some people add a hotel cost at the end of their cruise, so they don't feel like they want to rush off the ship and have to get back to the airport to go home. They'll add an extra day on their vacation just to have another hotel stay in their embarkation and debarkation port. So hotel costs, transfers, gratuities, beverages, excursions, naturally any shopping that you do, duty-free shopping that you do on board or in the ports, are going to be an extra cost. And insurance. Insurance is an extra cost, and it's one I'm going to recommend again in part 6. We're going to talk about that. So I'm already telling you there's going to be a part 6. Insurance. You need to add in insurance for your cruise. I can't stress that enough. Even if you're driving to the pier, insurance for your cruise is very, very important. So now, I think we've about covered all the costs. They're going to go into your cruise planning process. So that's where you need to understand and estimate. Oh, I'm sorry, one more, a big one. Airfare. You look at the cost of a cruise, unless you're driving, and I do have clients that drive to the port, but if you're going to fly and a family of 2 up to 4, airfare can be expensive. So when you're looking at the cruise cost, do not forget to figure in what it's going to cost you round trip for flights, no matter what airline you're on. So factor that in. So there's your major additional charges for a cruise that is above and beyond what you see in newspapers, magazines, TV ads, whatever that's advertising X, or on the internet, X cruise, certain price, making it sound really, really low, and it is potentially really, really low for that particular cruise, and it's still a great value. Cruises are an excellent value, but I'm afraid sometimes people don't add up the total cost, and what happens is you'll see the shock look on people's faces when they get their bill from the purser's desk on their last day, and they realize that they have racked up $5,000-$6,000 in incidentals on their cruise above and beyond what they thought, and they're going to have to pay for that, whether in cash or by credit card at the end of the cruise. So anyway, I hope I'm getting you prepared to have the best vacation possible in your life, which is a cruise vacation, but I want to make sure you're factoring in all the factors that go into the planning process. Thanks again. Ask any question you want. Be glad to answer. Leave comments, experiences, whatever. Be glad to have them on my blog. And appreciate you watching. Thanks.